Was there an Adam? Was there an Eve? Or did we evolve from what we conceived? Either way, we got what we needed when the sun shone down on the Garden of Eden.
Don't you know we're gonna have a Solartopia, Solartopia, Solartopia. Don't you know we're gonna have a Solartopia?
Hey, everybody, that was the wonderful Dara Williams singing, as always, with Pete Seeger. And David Burns, who wrote most of the words to that song, except for Solartopia, which I wrote. This is Harvey Sluggo Wasserman talking to you in the California. I'm sorry. Let's start again. Sorry about that. Hey, everybody. This is Harvey Sluggo Wasserman talking to you in the Green Power and Wellness Show here at PRN. That was the divine Dara Williams singing, as always, with Pete Seeger and David Burns, who wrote most of the words to that song, except for the one Solartopia I wrote. We have another special Zoom conference with you on the today for you on the all-important upcoming election. This is Zoom number 15. We have tremendous insights and important discussions of how this upcoming election is going to be conducted. We talked to you about Virginia, about North Carolina, about incredible situations in Ohio, about a major lawsuit on ballot counting out of Florida. We have the great news that Charlotte will be using its arenas, football and basketball, for voting. A ton of really up-to-date, breaking, cutting-edge, important stuff on how the election is going to be conducted. So stay with us. We'll be with you. Thanks to Jesse in the studio. And here we go. The Grassroots Emergency Election Protection Coalition, Zoom call number 15, getting down to the nitty-gritty of the Armageddon election, which is a mere 10 weeks away.
We are joined by many, many people and radio networks and people all over the country working to deal with the issues of the protecting our election. Today we're going to cover some key states, starting with Virginia, North Carolina, Ohio, Florida. We're going to talk about voting in arenas. In particular, we have Mayor Jennifer Roberts of Charlotte to talk to us about what's going on there, which is quite amazing, actually. We're going to talk about the Postal Service, early voting, an update, calendar update, which has been in both the New York Times and with Mimi Kennedy and Steve Rosenfeld. We're going to update our guide. We're going to talk about protecting the polls, whether sheriffs, monitors, and challengers on the Trump payroll are going to assault the polls, and whether maybe the postal workers could come out and help us protect them. We have a big discussion in conjunction with the Florida lawsuit from John BRAKEY and what's going to happen with electronic ballot images. And we're also going to talk about the upcoming showing of the movie Kill Chain a second time. And we want to talk about Reality Winner, who's in prison and needs to get out and suffering from the COVID. She is the one who blew the whistle on Russian intervention in our election and started the whole Mueller report going. Okay, but due to time, also, we're going to talk about public service announcements. We've had Egberto Willies and Don Goldmacher, who are joined us, who are both made public service announcements could be used all over the country, which is a big deal, a big deal. Okay, so let's jump in quickly because I know Steve Spitz has got to run to an election board meeting. There are a lot of amazing developments in Virginia. So Steve, my fellow Wolverine, why don't you jump in and tell us what's going on in Virginia?
Thanks, Harvey. KRISTIN CABRAL, another Wolverine, will be joining me describing Virginia. We'll talk about a recent court case that KRISTIN will talk about, the pending legislation, which is very interesting, which should be passed probably this week, as well as a very troubling situation with mis and disinformation going on from something called the Center for Voter Information. So Kristen, you want to start out with the witness signature lawsuit?
Kristen, are you there?
Kristen is there. Is she unmuted?
The wonders of Zoom.
I'm asking her to unmute and she hasn't done it yet.
Mike Hirsch, I've been texting you for 10 minutes to unmute me because I was going to go first. But anyway,
Okay,
all right.
yeah.
So let's see. I was on this call about a month or so ago and told you about a federal litigation in Roanoke brought by the League of Women Voters and some Virginia voters as represented by the ACLU of Virginia. At that time, heading into our delayed June primary, which was June 23rd, they had banged out a consent decree with the State Department of Elections via the State Attorney General's office to allow that our mail-in ballots do not need a witness signature due to COVID. And I am happy to report that last Friday, that consent decree got extended to this November general election. So in Virginia, where normally for mail-in ballots, you would need to have just one witness signature, unlike some states that require two, that requirement has been dispensed with. So as mail-in ballots come into the registrar's offices, if they don't have a witness signature, they will still be cast and counted.
Fantastic. So the bottom line now is that in Virginia, you do not need a witness to send it with signed on to a mail-in ballot. Is that correct?
Correct. You could send in your mail-in ballot, no witness signature, it will count.
Wonderful. And
again, that was done through litigation, not through special legislation, because right now our Virginia General Assembly, our state legislature, is currently now in a special session, and I send it to Steve to now go to that, and then I'll come back later.
Okay,
Yeah.
Steve,
So-
go ahead.
So this legislation, which should be passed according to a delegate key to this last night, has three elements to it. One is to authorize local jurisdictions to have drop boxes. Drop boxes are going to be key in Virginia because if people get the absentee ballots, but they are not secure in thinking that it's going to be received on time, they just put it in a drop box instead of mailing it. So that's going to be really important, particularly for folks who don't get the absentee ballots until, say, late October. Instead of risking it not arriving on time, they can just put it in a drop box. Secondly, the legislation is trying to provide for prepaid postage, which means that you wouldn't have to go to the post office to get stamps. Thirdly, they're trying to say that if you go off your address or botch your address, for example, since they already have your address, the failure for you to write your address is not going to mean your ballot isn't counted. And thirdly, they're talking about actually giving the folks correct any deficiencies so that their ballot would be counted. In other words, the registrar would say, oops, you did something wrong. You now have an opportunity to correct it. And if you correct it in time, it'll be counted. All right, so one other development that I wanted to talk to before I shoot it back to Kristen, and that is a misinformation or disinformation, huge problem. And that is something called the Center for Voter Information, which is a 501c4, has sent out millions of misdirected absentee ballot applications, sent it to the wrong registrar. About 440,000 of these were sent in Fairfax County alone, telling people to send it to a Fairfax City registrar, which is a different registrar, completely separate city. And to date, over 34,000 of those have been received by Fairfax City, and they have to be gotten back to Fairfax County. And according to Fairfax County Register, that's wasted 5 days of their people, and I don't know how many of the Fairfax City people just dealing with this mess. They also did this, sending Roanoke City to Roanoke County, Richmond City to Richmond County, which is nowhere near the city of Richmond, and Franklin City and Franklin County. So they made 8, quote, errors. It could be a hack. It could be somebody who's intentionally swapping this. It's created an enormous amount of concern among voters who've been bombarding their registrars of what's going on. What should I do? And tying up these registrars, which may be the whole purpose of the exercise. There are people looking into this. Hopefully they will get to the bottom of it. But meanwhile, that's created a lot of delays. And I would say for everybody to watch out for something like that to occur from a third party in your state. It apparently has also occurred in New Hampshire already. The same thing, pawning it off on a, quote, printer error, which may or may not be the case.
So this is a nonprofit.
Yeah, and I think,
Is this an organization that we think is attempting to subvert the electoral process?
It's hard to ascribe their motivations because it could be just gross incompetence, but how many errors they make and why they didn't look at any of the envelopes to see that they were properly addressed is beyond me. But this needs to be investigated because we don't know whether or not it's just gross incompetence or a hack or an rogue agent.
This is the Center for Voter Information.
Right.
Now,
And
the Center for Voter Information actually comes from the liberal side of the spectrum. I understand it gets Hollywood money, that its mission is to see that single women and people of color have access to voting, that they vote. Their actual CEO is a Democrat from Montana who had worked for Bullock and John Tester. And I think they meant well, but they're punching above their weight and they have no quality controls. And supposedly they were going to do a big mailing of recently into Ohio. So I think the sense I get is that they mean well, but they're incompetent. And to the extent their incompetency is also made doubly bagged due to any kind of hacking, remains to be seen.
All right, so this is a group we have to watch for, the Center for Voter Information. Somebody needs to go in there and make sure they get it right. I mean, this is ridiculous. This is very counterproductive.
Yeah.
Okay. What else do we have from Virginia so we can...
It's very good. Yeah, and then also, just so you know, our Virginia State Board of Elections has determined that ballots that do come in, mail-in ballots that do come in on time, which this year in Virginia will be by noon on the Friday after Election Day, that if they are missing a postmark or there is an illegible postmark, they will still be cast and counted. So the postmark issue has been dispensed with in our favor, that those ballots will be cast and counted.
Okay, that's good news. Thank you for that. Anything else from Virginia? You guys are going to an election board meeting. Give them hell. And thank you so much for your report. That's very good information. I understand also, I believe that Rhode Island, which had a notary requirement, has dropped it. So we are making some progress.
So what happened there in Rhode Island was that their state legislature could not agree what to do with their 2 witness signature requirement, if I recall. So because it failed in the state legislature, the governor, the Democratic governor, said, look, due to COVID, we're going to dispense with the need of having those 2 signatures. And then the Republican Party sued in court, appealed up the ladder. The Democratic governor kept winning, and then they went last week up into the Supreme Court, the United States Supreme Court, asking for a stay of the Democratic governor's decision to dispense with witness signatures in Rhode Island. And the Supreme Court denied the Republican motion to stay, thereby allowing at the end of the day, no witness signatures needed in Rhode Island either.
Right, and I believe that that is the first pro-voter rights decision that we've gotten out of the Roberts Court.
And it's not really a decision. Hold on, it's an order. It is not a decision on the merits. It was merely an order and not an opinion.
Let's do the law review later. We're really short on time. We're really short on time.
We're fine.
So we're going to keep moving on.
Thank you for covering that.
Thank you.
Okay, so listen, thank you for the report from Virginia. We knew it had to come quickly. I want to reintroduce us. This is thank you very much, Steve and Kristen, and keep up your great work. And Virginia, of course, is critical. And hopefully this decision to lighten things up in Virginia will help like the one in Rhode Island, which is an order, but we appreciate that. You're saying 500,000 mailings were sent by this group. Somebody's got to get to this group and make sure that they are doing things right. This is the Center for Voter Information. Somebody's got to check it out and see if in fact they're a legitimate group, which they seem to be, and to stop making mistakes like this. This is a very big deal to send people to the wrong place. Okay, we are, thank you, Steve and Kristen, we appreciate it. This is the 15th Zoom meeting of the Grassroots Emergency Election Protection Coalition. Our website is grassrootsep for election protection.org. We are focused entirely on making this a free and fair and accurate 2020 election. We have 10 weeks until November 3rd when things wrap up. So we are down to the wire here with a tremendous array of problems facing our electoral system. We tend to go state by state. We have we are focused in particular on 6 or 7 critical swing states: Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Florida, Arizona, and Ohio, bringing up the rear. And we will have reports from North Carolina and Ohio. Next, we are talking about protecting the polls and a whole other range of issues. I'm going to turn it over to Joel Siegel. Joel, you may want to start with Jennifer Roberts, but there's a tremendous amount of activity going on in North Carolina, and you are at the center of it, building the kind of grassroots coalition that we really need. So Joel Siegel, and then we're going to talk with Egberto Willis and Don Goldmacher about the PSA situation, hopefully producing a public service announcement, but that kind of originated in part of it in North Carolina. So Joel Siegel, are you there? You're muted. Let's unmute you. There you go. Joel? Can't hear you. Joel Siegel? Mike, have we got Joel unmuted?
I'm asking him to unmute. He's a co-host. He's not unmuting himself.
Unmute.
Nothing I can do. This is why I keep asking people mute if you're not talking. And when people don't mute themselves, this is the meltdown that we get.
Joel Siegel? All right, Joel Siegel's not coming through with audio. Is there any way we can get him on there, Mike?
I'm going to unmute everybody, and then everybody has to mute themselves. Otherwise, we're just going to have a big mess here.
All right, go ahead. Joel? Joel Siegel? All right, very, very quickly, while we're waiting for Joel to deal with this, Jennifer Roberts, can you hear me? Jennifer Roberts? Can you unmute yourself, Jennifer?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, as soon as we'll get back to Joel as soon as we can.
Right.
Jennifer, you and I talked earlier about the possibility of arenas being used to vote. Now, the Atlanta Hawks agreed to allow their arena to be used on Election Day. The New York Times ran a story saying that at least eight arenas were under consideration. Now, you have told me, well, go ahead and tell us what's happening in Charlotte.
Yeah, so I checked with our Board of Elections today. First of all, Donald Trump is about a mile. No, I don't know what that is.
That's Joel calling me.
Okay, go ahead and pick him up. Okay, Jennifer, go ahead.
So Donald Trump is in Charlotte right now, unfortunately. We are get lots of protesters out there. Our arena and our stadium are both going to be used. The Mecklenburg County Board of Elections voted to use both of them for early voting. That means 17 days from 8 in the morning to 7 at night. They will be open for early voting, which means there'll be lots of distance for people to be safe. They're going to use the indoor concourses. It's all inside voting, but these are huge places. And I just checked, Wake County is our second largest county. They have not designated any arenas, but in Charlotte, we're doing both. We're using both our stadium and our basketball arena for early voting, not for day of, because people have to go to their polling locations day of to get the right ballot. But in early voting, when they can select, they can put their precinct in and get their own ballot to come up, those are going to be used for early voting. And this information is getting out through the Board of Elections, through the political parties. And this is a great solution because those stadiums are huge and they have lots of room for people to stand in line without being anywhere near somebody else.
And they can get inside and there'll be no guns allowed in those places, right?
Yeah, they go through a metal detector, absolutely. In both those places, there's metal detectors at the door. I've also talked to the Board of Elections about our poll workers, and apparently we have plenty of volunteers signed up and trained. They're still taking applications in case people don't show up at the last minute, but apparently the word has gotten out that we need poll workers, and here in Mecklenburg County, we're doing very well. We're the largest county in North Carolina. Charlotte's about 1/10 the population of the state.
Are they paying poll workers or are these volunteers?
These are paid poll workers. They have people signing up to be judges, to be, the certified poll takers, et cetera. They're getting trained. So these are folks, they're not paid very much, but they are being paid and they have plenty of people signed up to do this.
That's fantastic. I hope everyone on the call understands how big a deal this is. This means that.
Yeah. The other cool thing is that our Attorney General, Josh Stein, just signed on to a lawsuit against the Trump administration regarding postal service. North Carolina is one of the states to sign on to that lawsuit. So we're pretty happy here. We've got a senatorial election that's close, Tom Tillis and Cal Cunningham, and we're really hoping to bring in a blue seat. Okay,
so the situation in North Carolina, folks, if you're interested, you can go to our website, grassrootsep.org, and you'll go to the Free Press website. The New York, I think the LA Times ran a piece today on North Carolina being up for grabs. And of course, because of Joel Siegel and you, Jennifer, and others in North Carolina, we've had tremendous grassroots organizing there. So everyone needs, I'll probably write about this. This is a huge deal that Charlotte will have not one but two stadiums, an indoor arena and a football stadium available for early voting. So that means that people will be sheltered from the armed regulators or whatever they're going to show up to harass people. Guns will clearly be banned inside those places. People will be out of the weather. There'll be plenty of social distancing. they can take a number which will show up on a scoreboard. There'll be restroom facilities and maybe even food. I mean, that is a major, major breakthrough. So thank you for letting us know about that, Jennifer. That's a big, big deal. We appreciate it.
Yep.
This was the decision of the election board? The election board decided this?
The Board of Elections decided this, and there's 17 days, including 2 Sundays.
Wow. Okay, so everybody else in other states, let's look into this. I mean, if we can do this in other states, we now have Atlanta, the Hawks, and then the 2 arenas in Charlotte. This is a very big deal. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for that.
Hey, Sluggo, I think Joel's with us and can speak. Joel?
Can we hear you now? Joel
Can
Siegel?
you hear me?
Yes. Speak up.
Praise Allah, Buddha, Jesus, and everyone else.
All right, here we are. Well, actually, praise LeBron James, who has really stepped up for doing this. If anybody's interested, there's a front page story in the New York Times about LeBron James setting up a very powerful national organization, and hopefully he'll also help us get the arenas. But Joel, you're going to give us a report now from North Carolina.
Yeah, I just bought 2 LeBron T-shirts that shows him dunking the basketball because I'm really a big LeBron fan now more than ever. So there's a few people that I'm going to call on. First of all, Harvey, thank you for the whole vision of your trifecta vision, because this is based on your vision. And Mike Hirsch, thank you for figuring out a way. You know, you're a technical guru to get me to talk. Thank you. So we heard from Jennifer. And now, so what we're doing basically now, on Thursday, we have a call with a gazillion organizations who have decided to form an election protection coalition. And I'm going to call on a few people to give some reports. Some of them don't know I'm going to call on them, but they're the ones who are actually doing all the work. Is Charles Stevenson on the beach in Wilmington, or did he join us?
No, I don't.
Because if you don't, all right. Let me start with Egberto Willis from Politics Done Right, who actually did our public service announcement gratis in Spanish and English, and he has this incredible progressive talk show. I hope everybody can listen into it out of Houston. But Egberto, are you with us? Egberto, mi amigo. Where's Egberto?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, great.
Can you roll your PSA to everyone?
Let me see if I can get it to play through. I think I
Why
can.
don't you just read it to us, Egberto? It's your voice. If you can read it.
Either one.
Okay, I didn't have it up with me, so let me just go ahead and find it, and I'll be more than happy to do so.
All right, so while you're looking, I want to mention also we have Don Goldmacher on the phone. Don, if you can unmute. Don is the other person with Egberto who's doing a PSA. And Don has done a number of PSAs, which are really, really good. And he has to run also. So Don, are you all right? Can you tell people how Egberto's looking for his? Can you tell people how to get a hold of you and your PSAs, because they're available for our groups to use?
Yes, so very simply, you go to whyfactsmatter.com. That's our website, whyfactsmatter.com. This is a collaborative effort between a bunch of media professionals in messaging, advertising, media production, and Berkeley City College, community college students. So we have on our website a bunch of audio and animated PSAs that are open source. Any organization that's doing voter registration and get out the vote can grab them, use them, put your own logo on at the end, so your brand is there, but please credit us with the hashtag WhyFactsMatter.
Okay, if you'll put that in the chat, that would be great.
I will put a link. I'll put the link in, and you will see some really lovely animations that have already been done by students. And we, of course, are also we have a Spanish-speaking radio PSA crafted between our team and Latinos for America that really kicks butt, and everybody's very jazzed by that radio PSA. So I'll put the website up in a moment.
Okay, great. I wish we could show your PSAs, but it's technically not possible. But
well, if you if you make me the co-host temporarily, then
Well,
you can do it.
we're not going to be able to do that today, but
Yeah,
we
we're gonna be cool with the technology.
yeah, but I do want to recommend, do you go to Don's website, get a hold of Don. If you want to do PSAs in your state, in your county, they're available, and Don can help you with it. And he's got his, and they're very good, and they're visual. Now, Egberto, are you ready to deliver yours?
Yeah, I can play it for you now. Let me tell me if you can hear it.
Okay. It's not loud enough. All right, here we go.
Still too quiet. I would
Yeah, I
prefer,
don't hear
Alberto, if
anything.
you would just read it in your very strong, authoritative voice, so we'll get the hang of it.
As opposed to Trump's authoritarian voice.
Yeah.
Election day is November 3rd. For further information,
Not working, my friend.
our vote. Voting is a right that must be used.
I can hear.
On November 3rd, 2020. Let's make John Lewis and Rosa Parks proud.
You get that?
No.
Oh, okay. Let me just tell you what it says. I'm playing the thing and thinking everybody can say it. It says, this is hold it, stop the music. This is an important election and you must cast your vote. You have three options. One, you can request a mail-in ballot, which must be signed by you and a witness and returned immediately. Do not wait. Early voting starts October 15th and runs until October 30th. Election day is November 3rd. For further information on voting, please call, and I give the number for the Democracy NC. Then voting is a right that must be used.
Okay, so now I have heard this in PSA form. It's terrific. Egberto, you'll talk to people who want to get a hold of you, get that out to them. You can tailor it to your own county or your own state, if need be, right, Egberto?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm putting my email in there.
All right, so folks, everybody
let me-
listening, all across the country, let me jump out a minute. Joel, anybody who wants to have a PSA made that you can play in your county or state, you can contact Egberto and or Don Goldmacher, and we've got the facilities now to produce PSAs for your use, okay? Thank you for that. Thank you, Joel.
Yeah, first of all, so what Charles Stevenson did, he went to the African-American stations in North Carolina and the gospel stations, and we have the rates and how much it's going to cost. If any of you on this call know a donor to help us put the PSAs on the radio, we need about 20 grand. I was going to do a bake sale and a lemonade sale at my elementary school in Lansdowne, but it's not going to cut it. But if any of you know any donors, that'd be great if you could send them our way. We'll be able to raise the money, I think. Egberto did it for free. He did it in Spanish and English, and he happens to be originally from Panama. So he's got that beautiful baritone voice. So Egberto, thank you for doing it gratis. And then the music, which I'm very proud of our next speaker, Lisa Figueroa Kravinsky, who I've known for 30 years. We used to record music together back in the day when I actually used to be a musician. And she played with Prince in one of Prince's bands. And now she is the director of the, it's the Go-Go Symphony, Lisa?
Yes, Go-Go Symphony.
Yeah, man. And before, when I knew Lisa earlier, I actually had hair that was brown. But can you talk about the music, about the Go-Go Symphony? Because what we want to do is integrate music and arts, not only to the PSAs, but into this movement. And Lisa, why don't you explain the Go-Go Symphony and what you've done in terms of the vote?
Go-Go Symphony merges Washington, D.C.'s own urban music. It's like a cousin of hip-hop to classical music, and for symphonies you can dance and party to. And we did a cover tune of Public Enemy's Fight the Power in response to Trump's election. And we have footage of a lot of protests and people voting, and it's encouraging people to vote, and it kind of riles people up because it was done in front of a crowd, and you know, fight the power. Yeah.
So you are available for people to plug into your and use your music and your expertise to also make videos to help promote the vote.
Yeah, we could do that.
Okay.
Well, more just you could use my music. You know, editing videos. That's usually what my husband would do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
we'd have to ask him.
Okay. I assume he's not that potted plant behind you. So, all right. So if you will put your contacts in the chat, that would be really terrific.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. And I've heard the music. It's terrific. If you put a URL where people can plug in and hear your music, that's really great. Okay. Now, Joel, you are building you've connected now with the Postal Workers Union, which is a huge deal, both locally and nationally. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, I've been working with State Representative Nassif McKee of North Carolina, and the president is Anthony Wilson. I don't know if Anthony's on the call, but we did a protest today in front of the distributing office. We had about 60 people, and the demand was that all the machines, there were 7 sorters that were taken away and turned into scrap metal in order for Trump to stop the absentee voting. And that was the first protest, but we're going to do them every week. And Mayor Roberts, we're going to do the second protest in front of the city county building, and we're going to introduce a resolution. This is something that everybody can do who has a city council. We're going to introduce a resolution demanding that all those machines come back to the distribution center, not only in Charlotte, but all across the country. We're going to have to ramp up our militancy because we're dealing with a nut job. And even though we are nonpartisan, an authoritarian nut job is neither partisan or nonpartisan. We're going to, you know, as Lisa would say, we're going to have to fight the power. And then we're going to do these protests until we get the machines back and people get their overtime. The workers were unbelievably angry. They're saying that the mail is just so backed up now that they cannot get it out in time. So we're asking the postal workers also on the day of the election to put their people at the polls to monitor the polls, because we know there's 50,000 thugs, that's what I call them, who will be at the polls to intimidate voters, mainly black and brown and those who don't look like me. And they're going to try to say, oh, well, the absentee ballots are fraudulent, and you don't mess around with the postal workers. They're not afraid of anybody. So I don't think he's on the call, but I did want to, is Cynthia Perry, is she on the line? There she is. I want to see if Cynthia can talk about the work she's doing with Center for Common Ground, Andrew Miller, and her and Evelyn Mavenhall are part of our coalition. This is a solidarity coalition. Everyone's doing different functions, but Cynthia and Evelyn have been at the vanguard of this, dealing with voter purging. But Cynthia and Evelyn, can you talk about your incredible efforts with Andrew Miller?
Yes, this is Cynthia. I'm going to defer to Evelyn because Evelyn is our project leader. And
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ms. Hall, Maven Hall.
So what's happening here is that Joel and the good folks on the call have been building exactly this kind of statewide coalition that we need in every swing, certainly in every swing state, of which North Carolina is one, to really do what we've been trying to do. This is the Grassroots Emergency Election Protection Coalition. So go ahead.
Hi, ampamerica.org, which is Alliance of More Progressive. We're very concerned with what's going on in this country, and we're working with Andrea Miller, Center for Common Ground, to reclaim our vote. And as all of you know, over 600,000 people have been purged from the voting rolls in North Carolina, and some of them are not even aware. So one of the projects we're working on now is to send postcards to these people to let them know that they've been purged and give them information as to how they can re-register. And we brought a lot of other organizations in to work with Center for Common Ground because they are the people who made changes in Virginia. And they're working with North Carolina is on their radar now, Alabama and Georgia, some other states. And we believe working with them, we can make a difference. So thank you very much. And Cynthia, you could share. Yes. And thank you, Mr. We had Mr. Harvey Wasserman to meet with our Union County senior Democrats the other day. He was phenomenal. He encouraged them and he energized them. So as long as we continue, and Joel, he's always phenomenal, we will get this done.
So what is the exact agenda for the grassroots groups in North Carolina so that we can be a template for the other states?
The overall template is build the biggest coalition of groups who work on election protection, voter registration, protect the vote. Right now we have Alliance of More Progressive, Democracy NC, Blueprint, Action NC, African American Caucus. Jennifer's been in touch, with Common Cause, but we have a call on Thursday. I think it's 30 or 40 organizations, and that's where we're going to come up with our actual action plan. And it's going to really revolve around like 3 or 4 components. The first is we want to do intensive voter education on the absentee ballot process because most people in North Carolina don't know what to do with the absentee ballot. They don't know where to get them. They don't know they got to be postmarked. So that's an intensive education program that, and actually Donna Marie Woodson, I don't know if Donna is on the call, is helping to coordinate that effort, along with all these other groups. The second thing we want to do is do an all souls to the polls, or take the absentee ballot early to the voting centers, and we're working with interfaith leaders to do that. We also have a sister organization in South Carolina with Reverend Leo Woodbury. They need funding. If we had more funding, we could really exponentially increase our efforts, but hopefully that'll come. Then the other part is poll monitors, people on the ground on the day of the election dealing with the shenanigans. The other part is we're going into the election boards, the Board of Elections. We're going to get embedded. We're studying what the laws are. It's not so easy. We have a series of questions that we want to ask them. What are they going to do about the absentee ballots? Because a lot of senior citizens who used to volunteer, for example, at the voting centers because of COVID-19, they're not there. So hopefully they'll be hiring more people to process the ballots. That's why in New York, they're still waiting 7 weeks now. I don't know if they have finished the absentee ballot counting. And then we want to stay, however long the count is, we want to avoid what happened in Florida. I don't know if everyone remembers when before he was Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh, he got a bunch of his folks who were Republicans to bum rush, I think it was Broward, Dade County, where they were counting the votes, yes, demanding they stop the recount. Well, we think that might happen here. So we want to, protect against that. And then this idea of voting at stadiums or whatever, it's a lot of work, but we have so many organizations that'll be doing specific functions, and we're just going to try to, fill in the gaps where we can. I have to tell you, it was not easy to establish this coalition. When you're the new kid on the block, whatever, it did help having a former mayor to help spearhead it, and the African American, caucus, and Andrew Miller and AMP and everyone else. But, the question I think that does need to be raised on this call, or at some point, you don't have to put everybody on the spot, but I think what people want is direction. What can they do in between the calls? But I'll just leave it at that. I have to finish, Harvey. I'm writing a new California single payer bill, so I can answer some questions, but I got to get it in and out in 1 hour.
Well, the bottom line is that you have 30 or 40 organizations in coalition now in North Carolina. This is what we need in all the states, is this kind of coalition. And, you're going to be doing the grassroots work, and you'll report back to us again next week on exactly what's going on. I do want to mention one thing, which is extremely important. which is the rise of the postal workers unions. People are on the election protection issue. What you've done in North Carolina is brought the postal workers union into the mix in protecting the election. If we can do this nationwide, it will have a completely transformative impact. I have a special expertise. My family business for 20 years was selling uniforms to postal workers. And I love postal workers. They are the salt of America. And there are 600,000 union postal workers in the United States. There are two unions, the American Postal Workers Union, which is the clerks, and the National Association of Letter Carriers. And between the two of them, there are more than 500,000 unionized American workers. Now, and they're plenty angry, as everybody knows. If we can have these people, the postal workers, in every state at the polling places through early voting and up to November 3rd, that's 12 times as many as the 50,000 armed thugs that the Republicans are talking about recruiting. So this could be a game changer. In your locales, if you can go to the postal workers, to the postal workers unions, and make the connection in there with them that they need to be at the polls to protect the balloting that has been messed with at the post offices, that could be a game changer. And Joel, you've paved the way for that in North Carolina, and I hope everybody will. Don't be shy with postal workers. They're great people. You know, I always talk to my postmen. I've been giving, when I see postal workers now, I go out and I give them encouragement. And this is the backbone of America, is the Postal Service. And the workers in there are as progressive a crew of people as you'll find anywhere. So if we can segue the postal unions into participating in protecting the polls through early voting and on election day, that could be a game changer. So thank you.
Harvey,
go ahead.
I just want to say that this has been an extraordinary team effort, and Charles Stevenson, who worked for Congressman Dellums for decades as his senior legislative director, he's been the one, spearheading, so much of this, and it's absolutely a team effort. What I do like about working in North Carolina, North Carolinians actually cooperate at a very high level, and that is one of the great things about working here. One thing I would say before I close is choose wisely who you put in your coalition, and make sure they're people who believe in a coalition effort. Not everyone believes in the idea of a coalition. Some people, and it's okay, are very comfortable working in their silos, whereas, AMP, the Alliance of More Progressives, has literally organized our entire city and put all these progressive groups under one coalition. So it's been very easy for us to organize out of Mecklenburg County because of Cynthia Perry and Evelyn Maven Hall. They're the ones doing all this work, in terms of sending out postcards to thousands of people to make sure that they register due to voter purging. So it's a phenomenal team effort, but it was your vision. All we're doing is implementing your vision. But I want to thank everybody on this call. Lisa, thank you for allowing us to use the Fight the Power. I don't know how you were able to get that from Public Enemy. But I hope everybody can watch the video. I would like at some point, Harvey, where we do a call where Lisa can show this video. It's about voting. It is absolutely astounding to watch 23, 30 musicians playing. And Egberto, that PSA was fabulous. We look forward to getting, Lisa, your music, and Egberto, your PSA on as many stations, as we can.
Okay, and remember, this is for all states. Okay, we'll try and get those actualities on next week's call. If Mike can pull that off, that would be wonderful. Okay, thank you, Joe. Anything else from North Carolina?
Is there anybody else from North Carolina that would like to add anything? Please, the floor is yours.
Well, what you're doing there is breaking through for what we got to do in all the states. Okay.
Thank you.
Joel,
thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, we're gonna move on now to Florida. John BRAKEY is with us. There has been, John, can you unmute? Are you with us? this is an incredibly important development in the legal side of the ballot imaging. And I had poor John, you're still muted, John. I had poor John explain it to me, and it took the better part of a half hour. So John, I want to try, give me a shot at explaining it, and then you can correct what I got wrong. So as many of you know, John and Chris Souter and his legal team went into court in Florida to demand that the election boards preserve the electronic ballot images, right? Now we know that the vote by mail, the paper ballots that come into the election boards are going to be run through machines that will scan them and produce a ballot image. And the machines cannot operate without producing the ballot images. However, the election boards have the option to delete the ballot images, which is completely insane, but they have that technological option. And many of the counties in Florida have been deleting the ballot images for no reason whatsoever, except maybe to help them steal the elections. It makes no sense. However, so John, in his genius, took him to court and said correctly, argued correctly, that the ballot images are part of the record of the election, and under federal law, they have to be preserved. Now, John told me that in the court, these election board heads went in and lied to the judge and said they don't have the technical capability of preserving the ballot images because there are more than one ballot involved in the vote. I mean, it's insane and you know, makes you want to do bad things. But John stuck with it, and his Chris Souter and his legal team, and they got an agreement. And this is, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, John. They got an agreement. The election board chiefs in Florida have said they will discard, and this is not all of them, you'll tell me how many, but they will discard the electronic ballot images because they don't have enough computer space to preserve them, which is utter nonsense. But if there is a recount, they will re-enter, rescan the ballots in the particular vote, in the particular race that's being recounted, which of course among them will be the presidential, and they will use the ballot images in the recount. So after the paper ballots, if there's a recount, after the paper ballots have been re-entered into the scanning machines, they will then use the electronic ballot images for the recount. Does everybody understand that? Did I get it right, John?
You got it pretty close,
Okay.
Harvey. You really did, and it is a problem. We are going to go back to court in November after the election. They have agreed that if there is a recount, that the images will be preserved because they say they have enough room. Yes, the 8 SOEs in that state, the 8 largest counties, okay, where 58% of every Democrat in the state lives, these are the communities of color that they went ahead and they filed documents with the court claiming that they did not have the capacity. We know was totally untrue, and because in fact, they didn't file a letter from ES&S stating, hey, our equipment doesn't have the capacity to do what they want to do. But the numbers that I have on the screen up here, you know, this is part of the pattern that I find all across the country. I've been in 18 states in the last 4 years. Why does a bank robber rob a bank? Because that's where the money is. Why are these 8 communities having the problem that they are? Is because they're the communities of color. This is where most of the Democrats live, okay? This is where that you can go ahead and, let's say, steal some votes, and the person in that county is still going to, but they just cut the vote back statewide, okay? And that's why it's so important to have these counties. And this little chart up here, you know, it's interesting, 58%, 55% of all the independents. Only almost 29% of the Republicans in that state live there. So we are continuing our efforts and continue, but where I'm really concerned, because on the call right now, is North Carolina. We are on the verge of filing documents in Florida, okay, where we are trying to make sure that we preserve the images there, especially in Mecklenburg County. Lynn Bernstein's on the call. She'll tell you horror stories that are going on in her county, which is the second largest, sometimes the first. It goes back and forth. There are a lot of good things going in North Carolina. You can see on this call with the coalition. But if we do not make sure that they're preserving the ballot images there, and they're going to run the vote by mail, which is going to be huge there, they're unsorted. You could have a box in Mecklenburg County with 1,000 ballots on it from 1,100 different or whatever they have. If you save the images and get the images, then you can go ahead and sort them down and audit by precinct where proper audits really should be.
So
everybody, hopefully, go ahead.
So everybody, you need to know, John's been on a lot, and Steve Rosenfeld is talking about this. Maybe we'll bring in Steve. Also, Dr. Ruth has a hand. But you need to know the status of the electronic ballot images, whether they're going to be preserved in your county. And John's court case here has showed that they will lie about their capacity to preserve these. But on the other hand, since we have paper ballots, as opposed to the touchscreen machines we had 4 years ago, if there's a recount, they can run the paper ballots through the scanner and then count them instantly and have not only the scanned image, but also the paper ballots. Is that correct, John?
That is correct. And I just want to note, we have 32 counties in Florida that are preserving images, that are delivering images to us, and Ray Lutz, I know it's Ray's on the call, hi Ray, who's just developed tremendous software to be able to count this among other ways we have. So we need to do the same thing in North Carolina, the same thing in Pennsylvania, okay? In Michigan, I'm working with Jan Vendor. Later this week, we're going to talk about what counties we're going to sue up there. There are counties preserving. There are other counties who say, why would I save those things? I have the originals. Well, you have to save them because it's the law. And these records belong to us. Getting back to Florida, these 8 counties, these are elected officials, these supervisors of elections. Broward County, we know that the next SOE coming in their primary, the 2 that are going to go into a runoff are fans of ballot images and say that they're going to preserve. We need to haunt these other SOEs in Florida and call them up and say, why are you destroying public records that can prove that elections are real, that belong to the people? Why?
Okay,
because maybe somebody's protecting the right to cheat.
Steve Rosenfeld, did you want to jump in on this? And then Dr. Ruth? Steve Rosenfeld, are you with us? There's always a moment here. Or Dr. Ruth, did you want to say something?
Yes, 2 things. One is, I'm sure all of you all know this, but there are machines that actually have switches where they can turn it off, so they're not even storing them on the ballots. They can turn imaging. Right, exactly. Second thing is, just for everyone, there is a group called smartelections.us. They are fantastic. I went to their last online meeting. They're having one tomorrow night specifically on voting machines and voting technology. So people who are interested, you should probably watch that. They are excellent.
Okay, wonderful. Ruth, if you'll put them in the affiliates and put them in the chat room, that will be great. Can we unmute Steve Rosenfeld, Mike? So, because Steve has a couple words. John, your work on this is fantastic, and it's relevant to every.
I've asked Steve to unmute himself. He has to do it. I can't do it for him.
Okay, Steve, you got to unmute yourself. I don't know what's going on there, but the bottom line is that all these machines are all over the country. And every precinct almost is going to have a machine where this issue will come up. We are making progress. It's a different world than it was when we started.
And so we went digging into the ground and started to burn many things we found. Don't you know we're gonna have a Solartopia, Solartopia, Solartopia.